Welcome at our webinar, the Documentum at OpenText Enterprise World 2021. This will be a 30-minute recap of what we saw and how we look at the information gathered at Enterprise World 2021 of OpenText. My name is Jeroen Jansen. I'm together here with Martijn van Doeselaar. As a quick note before we start, all attendees are in the listen-only mode. Your cameras are off. If you have questions, if you want to react, please do that in the Q&A box you have in your panel on the right side of the GoToWebinar. To be formal, the broadcast will be recorded to make sure that you know that, and after the session we'll send you a link so that you can look at it again if you want to, or share it with your colleagues or partners if you want to do that. At the end, we will go over the questions that are set in the question pane, if there are any, and if we have a lot of time left. That will be the base of the webinar, and I think we can start now. We only took 30 minutes, and it won't be a webinar where we really look at all the details what is presented about Documentum in the OpenText Enterprise World, but it's much more important that we try to share with you how we see the roadmap of OpenText about Documentum, why they make the decisions that they actually are making, and what the new features and functions are based upon. So what's the road that we think OpenText is taken with Documentum and how things are progressing. So to do so, Martijn, to start with you, what stood out for you when you looked at the way too much presentations of Enterprise World?
Yes, that's right, Jeroen. Thank you. No, you're right. There were about 200 breakout sessions, more than 20 keynotes, expert panels, etc., etc. So you're right. It was almost impossible to follow everything. Of course, you have your focus, and our focus is, of course, Documentum. But yeah, what really stood out for me was actually the workflow design, because what you can see is one of the choices OpenText made was to separate the workflow designer from all of the separate applications. You used to have workflow designer for the platform, you used to have a workflow designer for XCP. And what you can see now is that they're going for a web-based workflow designer that is the same for every application. And one of the views you can see from OpenText there is that they want to separate the platform more from the UI. Because one of the things you can do with that is have your platform, your metadata, your workflows all inside the platform, and then use whatever UI you want. You can use the low-code XCP, you can use OutSystems, you can use D2, any UI you want. And you can really see their view on the future of Documentum in there. And you can also see that with their choice of XCP, with their process-only offering, is that also they are separating the processes, the workflows from the UI. So that's all the choice for the workflow designer. So yeah, that was actually a pretty big thing for me that stood out there. How about you? What stood out for you?
I also had too much sessions and too much information. I really tried to focus more on the broader umfeld of Documentum. So where does Documentum sit within OpenText and the challenges in their whole portfolio? And what for me stood out is the amount of effort, but also the amount of money they put in the R&D of the new OT2 or OpenText Core platform. It's really impressive how much effort and how much money they put into the new cloud offering, their new cloud solution. We see when you look at it, it's all based on the Microsoft platform, the developer.opentext.com. That is really the microservice concept that was already started during the EMC Leap days. And if you look at that cloud platform, when you look at the microservices, you still see the vision of people like Jeroen van Rotterdam and Awesome Ahmed, where they really try to make from the ground up a new platform and new solutions modern. But you see that OpenText really took that vision and made it and enhanced it, made it more robust and much more secure to a full-fledged multi-tenant cloud-based offering in the public cloud that is very impressive. It started as that microservices, but the good thing of OpenText is that they really layered it all to the needs of the client. So if you really want to use the microservices from developer.opentext.com, you're able to do so. But on top of that, they situated their content, core content, but really has the microservices and the base functionality of an enterprise information management solution. In this first phase, you see that a lot of the developers of the core content are coming from the content server side of OpenText. So a lot of the functionalities we are known in the Documentum environment are not all there, but it still is a good base to start up. You see that more and more are progressing. The other side, we see that on top of that, they're adding more and more extra functionality that's already tailor-made for you. It could be a case management, so core for case management or core for workflow, but also really horizontal solutions like the core for capital projects or the core for BIM. I'll get a bit later on, I'll get a bit more about the OT2 because it has an important impact on the future road of OpenText and their document management solutions. But for now, that was the one that stood out for me very well. So if we continue to go, then the idea we have is we're going to talk about sort of three interesting categories about what we saw at OpenText Enterprise World. The first one is about the Documentum platform, so what is happening there. Documentum D2 and Documentum XCP, the two main interfaces that they are offering. So, and after that, we have some sort of closing and about the surroundings of Documentum and what we see are interesting steps that are happening. So for the platform, Martijn, can you take that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, first one is the Documentum platform. And of course, what you see there aren't that many huge changes anymore to the platform. One thing that looked very promising a year ago was the introduction of the new Documentum search. They had very high hopes for that to replace Explorer as the search engine. However, that got delayed, and it is not really sure why that is and how long the delay is. But that was a very promising big change that was coming, but yeah, unfortunately it got delayed. So we have to wait a little bit longer for that. But so for now, Explorer is still the search engine to go for Documentum. But besides that, you can see that the biggest changes are mainly around the cloud. And not just the cloud, but also the way you deploy your environment, the way you install, the way you do your upgrades, etc. And of course, one of the biggest changes when it comes to that is the whole thing about containerization. So Docker containers, but also the management of your Docker containers by Kubernetes, by OpenShift, and everything around it. And if you look at their offering, in the beginning, it was mainly around really private cloud. Everything was just for you, and you can slowly see now that they're moving towards more and more the public offering as well. And I think that the whole containerization makes that possible for them. And you can especially see that with their newest standard cloud bundle for Documentum and Documentum D2. It's a managed service that they manage for you that runs in the public cloud. The downside is that, yeah, really customization isn't possible anymore. You have a standardized feature set. For example, if you do D2 config, it's possible, but running your own customizations is not possible. And that's also the reason why they're not offering Documentum XCP in here yet. Because, yeah, XCP without any customizations probably be pretty useless. Upside, however, is the pricing, of course, which is way more interesting than the private cloud offering. But also, if you run your own installation of Documentum on-prem, you might want to go and think about containerization, because we've spoken to a few people about especially upgrades. I mean, upgrades in Documentum land are always hard and long and expensive, and they can be quite troublesome. And containerization solves a big part of those problems. Of course, not everything, but we've spoken to people who did a big upgrade of Documentum in days instead of weeks or months. And that is possible, I think, because of Docker, because of Kubernetes, because of OpenShift. They all make it very easy for you to run your Documentum platform in either your own cloud, in the public cloud, in the Azure cloud, whatever cloud you apply. One of the other thing that stood out for me when it comes to platform is the amount of integrations that you have right now. And one of the things I really liked was their new connector for Microsoft Teams. And I think we can all agree that Microsoft Teams has taken a big run during COVID. Everybody is using it at the moment, and they did something amazing. They interacted with Microsoft, and they discussed with Microsoft what are the possibilities of integrating our enterprise content management system inside Teams. Everybody knows the files tab in Teams, where you have your SharePoint-like files and folders, and they were actually able to replace that with a Documentum view. So you can actually, within Microsoft Teams, natively, you can look inside Documentum, you can edit, interact with files, check out, check in documents, etc., etc. So that, that sounds really promising, and I think that's a really cool integration. The final thing they changed is also one thing that makes it easier for you to go into the public cloud, because I think one of the hurdles you have to take when going in the cloud, any cloud, public, private, is that security is a big issue there. You have to make sure that you comply with your company standards, your company security standards. And being able to bring your own keys inside of Documentum is a step towards a more secure environment that also integrates into your own security standards and standard protocols. So you can use your own keys to encrypt, decrypt, etc., and use your Documentum platform with your own keys. So yeah, those were the highlights from the Documentum platform. So next up is D2. Jeroen, maybe you can tell something about D2.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick. I hope I'm going to make the whole 30 minutes, but otherwise Martijn has to do it all himself. But for now, I'm okay. A little bit about what is happening in D2. Very important is to focus on the smart view. What you see in D2, not much more functionality is added to the base, the core of the D2 offering. So the D2 config is still there, it still does all the work, but they're adding all the functionality that is available in D2 Classic, now also available in Smart View, and you actually see a little bit more added functionality within, or an easier way of working within the Smart View. But the base of it all is make sure that everything that is in D2 Classic also is available in D2 Smart View. It looks very nice, so workflows are now added to it. All of the functionality for workflows are now added to it, and with the new process engine, that actually works quite well to make sure that happens. There are now some other things like the life cycles and the mass updates. They are used quite well and quite often in the D2 Classic, and now everything is available in the Smart View. And that means that using the D2 Classic is less and less important. There's actually not much more that you want to do in the D2 Classic compared to the D2 Smart View. The one thing we are lacking more from the development side, more from the very demanding customization side that we see with a number of our clients, is we need an SDK. And that's one of the things that's on the roadmap for Documentum. Make sure there is a D2 SDK for Smart View so that we can make those integrations to other systems and solutions to integrate information together to make it a seamless experience for the end user. And that is coming, and hopefully that will help us to make the better solutions in D2. The other thing we see in D2 is a lot of effort on the mobile side. I really am impressed about what they're doing in D2 Mobile. That is fully based now also on that same Smart View look and feel, but they're really creating solutions that interact with the device itself. So not only make it an easy look and feel small screens on your mobile telephone or even on your iPad, but also interact with your camera. And the example they have is if you put a QR code, whatever, on your machines or on your elevator, and directly link that to your standard SOPs for that machinery, that piece of machinery, or even that piece of equipment that you have, you can directly get the right information, the always approved documents directly on your mobile device. So really good use of the device added value when you're working mobile. Very, very impressive that they are doing there. What is more interesting more interesting in the whole when we look at D2 is what is the role of D2 within OpenText. D2 has now exactly the same interface, the Smart View, as the Content Server solution, the old LiveLink solution that they had. It offers most the same functionality with the extended ECM for Documentum for SAP. So if you have SAP, then you actually can also use the extended ECM with Documentum D2 on the background. If you're doing that in Salesforce, we see the same. And somewhere in the near future, all the others will also come alive. And you can have D2 as your backend for your extended ECM. So use your line of business application as your main contact for the grand part of your users, and only the specific user that are really managing documents use the Documentum D2 Smart View. And even if you look at the keynote that was given by Michael Cibala and Marco Diefenbroek, they gave the keynote about content services. You see that the integration of D2, the use of D2 and the concept of context in concept, what OpenText is sort of their main asset and their main unique value, is now presented always from a D2 perspective. So it's really the core for their content in context offering is now the extended ECM for Documentum with D2 on the back end. A really, really impressive move. But it's not only the vision and the functionality that is available in D2 that exceeds now the content server solution. Actually, the worldwide sales of Documentum is getting more and bigger. It was already in 2020 bigger than content server, and now even the gap is getting bigger. So you really see that also from a commercial side, Documentum D2 or Documentum as a whole is really gaining ground in the whole OpenText community, and that is an interesting thing for the Documentum lovers in the area that we have. Already mentioned a little bit is the Salesforce integration. I have to be sure. Yeah, the Salesforce integration. So there's now extended ECM for Documentum for Salesforce. So extended ECM for Salesforce is the integration from extended ECM to content server, and now the extended ECM for Documentum for Salesforce is also available. So you see that more and more of that extended ECM functionality opens up into Documentum, specifically to D2, for the very simple reason that the configuration options for D2 are huge and the customizations options limited, and that makes it perfect to make those standard integrations to your line of business solutions. A very good way to manage your whole set in an enterprise environment. The other thing is that we see is that D2 is chosen by OpenText to be their core platform for the horizontal solutions. So we already knew there was the asset operations, but you see also that in life science, they're still emphasizing a lot on the D2 offering, where we see that although the past years everything was lost to FIFA, now slowly they're gaining ground again to FIFA with their life science offering. So we see that the base of the D2 horizontal solutions are gaining ground within the OpenText family. On the other side, we see that the core solutions, like core for capital projects or core for BIM or core for regulatory plans, are also gaining ground. So besides D2, we also see the other side gaining ground on that area. So that's a bit about the D2 solutions. Martijn, I think the next one is XCP.
Yeah.
Would you pick that one?
Yeah. XCP, like Jeroen already mentioned during his last slide, was that Documentum is really gaining ground from a sales perspective, especially within Europe, but also worldwide. And you can especially see that with Documentum XCP. Documentum XCP is doing really well. And you can also see that a lot of the R&D budget within OpenText is actually going to Documentum XCP at the moment. There's a lot also going to D2 and to the platform, but you can really see that they are focusing a lot on XCP at this moment, because there's a lot of functional changes when it comes to Documentum XCP. And Documentum XCP is, of course, the low-code solution for Documentum. But besides being a low-code platform, it has also been presented as the case management solution. And you can really see that with their development. If you look at their development, a lot of their development is actually around case management. They made sure that the user interface is more in sync with the user. They made it easier for both developers and users to create new cases, to manage your cases, and manage your life cycle around cases, because especially that last part has been lacking a bit within the XP platform, managing your case life cycle. So those are things they've been really focusing on. And the other thing you can see, just like the platform, they are really focusing on the cloud. So what you see on the far pillar is the whole cloud changes that they made. Actually, one thing that is not mentioned here is that they dropped support for basic Docker containers. But on the other hand, they added functionality for support for OpenShift and for Kubernetes. And when you think about it, it's kind of a logical step, because if you look at a professional environment, most of them are going to be managing their Docker containers anyway. For us as developers, it will be a bit of a downside because we have to make a little bit more effort. But when it comes to a professional cloud view, it actually makes sense. But if we look at the case management, you can see that they added some real base case management functionality. It makes it so much easier for developers to develop a case management solution, but also for the users. If you look at the new lifecycle widget, for example, that you see here on the slide, it's so easy for a user now to keep track of the lifecycle of their case. But also what you see with the user interface improvements for usability. They have a hover icon set now that you can use when interacting with lists, and you can actually interact with an item there just by hovering your mouse over. But also the icons are now possible to put on a button, for example. So from a user experience perspective, they are making steps as well. One of the other big improvements, I think, is the tile dashboard and the tile widgets. And why do I think that's a big improvement? It's because they are unifying the user interface between XCP, D2, and all of the other platforms. With the tile dashboard, the tile widget, they are making a step towards the smart view. and the user interface, when people are using multiple UIs, actually makes sense. That the users know this interface, and you can actually use XCP now to make an interface that's similar to the Smart View, indeed do in extended ECM, etc., etc. So yeah, pretty cool. They added tiles. You as a developer can configure what is being displayed on those tiles, what the user can interact with, etc., etc. So that's actually pretty cool. One thing that is still missing though is better mobile integration. As you could see on the first slide, is they upgraded the XJS framework to the newest version, and that enables you for some integrations with your mobile, for example, the camera or anything like that. And unfortunately, the integration with mobile isn't perfect yet within XCP. There are still some steps to be taken there. Luckily, the new step in XJS does make it easier for you to make a responsive design. So that is one step towards multiple displays, but they do need to add some extra steps. Okay, so that's it for XCP. Jeroen, is there anything else that you would like to touch?
Yeah, we have to do it quickly because we're running sort of out of time. But I think we need to touch base a little bit in the umveld of Documentum. So what is happening in OpenText with everything else we see, and how does Documentum fit in the OpenText family of about 200 products I think they have now on their product list. The first one I think is very important is, of course, AppWorks. AppWorks is positioned by OpenText as their low-code process suite engine thingy. That's the reason why XCP is still not mentioned as a low-code solution, although it fits that much more and better than AppWorks, but that is more a marketing thing from OpenText. But we see AppWorks is sold often in the Netherlands as DigiGov, based on the old Dutch solution. And we see that it is a sort of a low-code platform, but it lacks a little bit of cohesion. If you compare that to an OpenText or an OutSystems or a Mendix, you really see the difference between the concept of low coding and everything centralized and how that is set up in AppWorks. So although they're getting there, and you really see that Nick King as the product manager is picking up and stealing a lot from the way he set it up and made it with his team when he was the product manager of XCP, but it's still a way off if you look at the progress that XCP is making in that area. Although it's still coming more and more, and you see there are in government some clients who use AppWorks as their front end and Documentum, and then often Documentum D2 as their back end. And because of that, you see that the integration between AppWorks and Documentum is now as very standard and very high value, if you want to use it. The other one we need to touch base on is a statement that Mike O'Rourke made, the lead product manager of Documentum, and it is quite a challenging statement, a little bit unconventional, but I like it. He really openly said that he put time and money from his team and from engineering to create a solution to move documents out of Documentum and into core content. So actually move them out of Documentum and move them to another content management system. And that is strange that actually a product manager takes time, money, and it presents it officially at the enterprise world, where they're moving from Documentum using REST via Content Bridge to, in this case, core content. And that really gives an open and honest idea where Documentum, where OpenText is going into in the next 10 to 20 years. So not in the next 2 to 5 years, but really the next 10 to 20 years. So you're able to move with Documentum to a hybrid solution using core content, and then if you want to or not, stay either hybrid or fully move over to a cloud solution with the core content, the OT2 solutions of Documentum. So they actually put a lot of money and effort in that. Content Bridge already could do that with Content Server because it's actually a product built for Content Server, but now also available with Documentum to move it over and really create for you a hybrid option that you could use if you use Documentum somewhere in the next years. So that's an interesting thing that I saw Micah present without any limitations to there, and it really opens up, I think, the vision of OpenText to go to OT2. I think those are the two things I wanted to highlight. Martijn, quickly, do we have any closing comments?
Well, yeah, like I said, one of the main things I see is the separation between UI and process or workflows with the new process only offering and the workflow designer. For me, that was one of the biggest things. How about you?
Yeah, I spoke a lot about it. So the whole OT2 progress this year, I think, was incredible. It's really now a full-blown multi-tenant content services platform that you really can use in a professional environment. So very happy with that. And on the other side, of course, the role that Documentum is playing within OpenText that is getting bigger and bigger. So I'm very impressed by it. I think we sort of got out of time. I see that we have a number of questions, although we are almost out of time. I think we take a couple of minutes. Are there any questions that we should try to answer? We're definitely not going to do all of them, but for the people who don't get an answer, we'll contact them directly to make sure that you get your questions answered if you have them.
Yeah, I think I see a lot of questions, but I think most of the questions will indeed be answered directly. One of the questions I see here is why should I upgrade and keep my platform up to date? Is there a reason to upgrade?
Yeah, well, I think it's very important because if you see the number of functionalities that are added to the system, in XCP, there this year quite a lot. In D2, almost none. So why do I upgrade? But I think it's very important if you look at the whole concept of managing and maintaining your solution. That is very important when it comes to security and when it comes to maintainability, that you keep in sync. We see again with the ability to have rotating keys on your platform for your encryption. That is something that wasn't interesting 2 years ago in a local solution. If you go to a public cloud with Documentum, you actually have to have a rotating key, otherwise you will be cracked somewhere, and that's something you don't want. So really gives you the ability to open up to the more new ways of working and working in the cloud. So if you want that. On the other side, the whole Kubernetes concept, the fact that we are able to do an upgrade within, let's say, weeks, because I really have to see for our clients if we can do that in days, but if you can do an upgrade in weeks instead of months by the use of Kubernetes and containerized concepts in there, or an OpenShift if you want it more commercialized, it's really impressive. And it's actually possible to do so, but then you have to talk with your hosting group or your hosting provider, if that's external, and make sure they follow that new concept of Kubernetes and containerized maintain of your platform. So that really those two added extras are needed for you to keep updated and keep your systems upgraded. So we do another that might be interesting. I think it's an interesting question. That is Documentum now really legacy? The fact that OT2 is now there and they're actually offering things to migrate, or is it still something that is there? Yeah.
No, it is an interesting question. We actually had more questions around this being asked. Some people are, of course, afraid that Documentum on-prem or is being phased out, or maybe Documentum altogether is being phased out. But No, I do not agree. I really think Documentum still has a place within the whole platform, in the whole product management lifecycle of OpenText, and really still has an added value. It's such a strong platform, and core content, of course, is also strong, but it's still lacking a lot of functionality. And especially if you look at the future view of OpenText, I really still think Documentum can live besides core content. And I think that's really two different user groups that are using those two.
Yeah,
so,
now I totally agree. I think that in the ecosystems for the next 10 years, Documentum will have a main role within OpenText. I'm interested what is going to happen with Content Server. Now you see they're really lacking behind in the sales, and that is always the sort of the number one thing with a license company. But Documentum is really strong, and the hybrid solution that they're now focusing on, having Documentum on-prem or in some sort of cloud solution, and then your multi-tenant with things like Core Capital or your Core Supplier Exchange, really can make the next coming 10 years will have a great focus and also a lot of effort in the R&D of OpenText. Yeah, I think I'm looking at the time because we're already going over. So I think about 5 or 6 other questions that we're going to try to answer you directly. I want to thank you all for attending. We did a broad overview. If you want to have more detail, if you want us to explain or even show you some of the things that we talked about, or actually have that whole list of new functionalities that are available in Documentum, please contact us. Here are our two contact details, or contact our sales. That could be Serge, or that could be any other of our sales team, and then we gladly make an appointment with you to go in much more detail in what we are doing about the solution. So thank you very much for listening, and hope it helped, and see you next time.